What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Snowball Esports Show. I am so hyped. I'm so pumped right now to be presenting to our audience some of the best esports content that we have to offer. But before we get into it, I'd like to introduce my co-hosts. We have Judge, we have Ducky. Gentlemen, how are we?
It's a plural this week. Co-hosts, you're back.
Co-hosts.
How you going,
Judge?
Judgy?
Oh, it feels good to be back, especially after that intro. Got to shout out producer Swifty, getting a banger instrumental favourite of mine. Shout out to the Tiny Meat Gang. But no, doing well. Glad to be here. Glad to talk esports and talk shit as usual. Ducky, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm vibing. Just getting by as per normal. Uni and work and esports and Siege and esports.
And commentating Nico's sweet clutches. He's a real Rainbow Six gamer now.
I think I've got about 30 seconds of demo reel that I could possibly submit because I think he's only done one in the last week or so.
See, unfortunately, all those 30 seconds are just him swerving on me, and I'm starting to get better. I'm starting to get better. I feel like I can feel comfortable in the keyboard and mouse. Anyway, boys, I really need to cut yours off because we have to get into some of the esport news real quick. You know how the show goes. We're going to give you a quick rundown of some of the news that has interested us this week and the Snowball team. Valorant, apparently it's big. This small-time game, up-and-coming developers, you know the drill, this old chestnut. Valorant, full launch coming up. What does it mean for us, boys?
Yeah, so small indie company. I'm not sure if you heard them, but Riot Games.
Riot Games,
with
never
their
heard of them.
collective 200 years of game design experience, have managed to push out an FPS title from closed beta to launch in 6 weeks. So Valorant full launch, OCE servers included, coming on June 2. Mark your calendars. Not sure if it's June 2 US time, so it could be June 3 Australian time. What it means for OCE Esports? Well, we won't have Valorant tournaments on 180 to 250 ping anymore. And we'll actually have proper servers that players can play on, which will be nice. I think it's really exciting. I'm interested to see how it will contend with other big hitters in the space like CSGO, namely the biggest one. You've also got to look at games like Siege and Fortnite and Overwatch and PUBG. But we'll be dissecting that later on in the show.
Judgy, you want to take over?
Yeah, look, I'm pretty elbow deep in a Call of Duty Warzone at the moment, so I can't say that trying to get a Riot NA account to then play an FPS on 180 ping has really been in my wheelhouse. But I am keen for Valorant to come full release and down under as well. I think we're going to be seeing basically more of what we've seen already. Players in other FPS titles or titles that have some sort of similar feel moving across to Valorant, trying to see if they can make it, whether it's making it as a pro or making it in content. We're going to see what we expect from basically any AAA title coming out at any stage. A lot of content being pumped out by a lot of people. Esports orgs looking to pick up those that are doing well in either of those fields and seeing where they jostle to fit into place. And hopefully a thriving scene as we look at a developer that's done well in having their flagship title in multiple regions, even smaller regions, often overlooked. And hopefully they'll take Valorant and run it in a very similar trajectory.
Too easy. All right, boys, we're going to jump on to the next subject. The CSGO NZ Champs returns. Judge, so there was some excitement in the CSGO community. Can you fill us in a bit on that?
I can't, no.
No, sorry, Ducky.
Yeah, so CSGO NZ Champs.
I threw you a heater there. I threw you a little curveball. We're on the game here tonight.
Yeah, look, I'm just straight down the middle with it. No,
No, I have not been keeping an eye.
But Ducky, you've been keeping an eye on.
Yeah, so CSGO NZ Champs has returned, and we've seen some interesting results, namely that Avant, the previous champions, have been taken down by Paradox 2-1. We've also seen RNG get out to a fast start. Renegades, obviously not surprising there. They took down Generation of Miracles. And Truckers with Attitude, one of the best team names I've heard in quite some time in this region that's not mildly offensive in CSGO, has taken down Ground Zero, which is a good start to their season. ANZ Champs, the first season wrapped up a few weeks ago. All of this stuff is really good for Oceanic Counter-Strike. And yeah, it's just really exciting to have some semblance of OCE Esports back after a little hiatus where all we really had was 6 Masters.
I have seen, I haven't been able to catch games. I've seen plenty of tweets coming out, and it seems that the sentiment around Counter-Strike in our region at the moment is that it's pretty balanced right now. We've gone through a couple of periods where we've seen large team shifts and changes, whether that's full rosters changing orgs or some moving out, some moving into a roster. before this season. And results of the last week have shocked people across the Twitterverse. So I'm excited to getting back into watching CSGO, my wheelhouse, and taking in what is probably a pretty balanced out season, or at least waiting for 2 or 3 teams to just steamroll ahead of the pack.
I completely agree. I think it's good to see some of some premier OS players playing in the one of the most beloved esports here in Oz, which is CS:GO. So the APAC League launched, APAC North. We've got some stuff in the R6 territory, the R6 realm. APAC North. Sadly, we see Fnatic move over to Singapore. Not so sad because they're branching out. They're moving on to a sort of region that they feel more comfortable with, and also Norango are moving downwards. Fnatic moving upwards. It's kind of an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, like this whole APAC launch for R6 is absolutely massive news for the ecosystem. The short of it is now APAC is split into 2 major regions: APAC North, which is Japan, Korea, and Southeast Asia, and APAC South, which is South Asia, which is India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, and Oceania, which is Australia, New Zealand, and assorted islands. 8 teams from ANZ will be playing in the Oceanic Nationals. The top 3 of those will then progress into the APAC South playoffs, and they'll play against one of the best team from the South Asian League, and then the top 2 teams from APAC South will be thrown into a playoffs against the top 6 teams from APAC North to determine who qualifies for the 6th major, who qualifies for the 6th invitational, who gets to ultimately represent our region on the global stage. And look, it's good for us because we can hedge our bets and finally get 3 Aussie teams at an international tournament if we have our luck go our side. Fnatic plays top 2. We have our 2 Aussie teams go well in the APAC playoffs. It's a really exciting time for Siege. The global expansion as a whole, I think, is really massive for the ecosystem. And it's just now a waiting game as to how everything pans out and who rises to the top.
Unironically, I'm a big fan of branding, and I love to see what Ubisoft's done with this rollout of new logos, new imaging for everything coming into these changes. So I'm very excited to see how it plays out. Really keen to see what happens with finals of this season as well. Like Ducky said, it'd be sick to see the perfect ANZ rollout with Fnatic shipping off, kind of like what we occasionally get with CSGO as well. With some of our Aussie boys internationally in the past. So we'll see how this season plays out, but it looks good, and to me, that's a win.
Too easy. That's
I'm interested about your fascination with Judge Brand. Why is that?
Don't know. I just really love marketing. It's a passion of mine, like art and Photoshop.
Anyway, and we'll jump
into my passion, Ducky. Graphic design is my passion.
Comics.
I'm gonna hold you there, guys, there before we jump into any more typography subjects because I could go on all day. And then finally, if for all the Dota 2 fans out there, we've got the Battle Pass that's just gone live this week. It's already reached, I think it's at 8 million plus already in the past 24 hours. I'm not going to swear because I promised myself I wouldn't swear. I'm going to try to hold back swearing. Every time I'm about to swear, I told myself I'll put a coin in this little jar that I got here, and that's going to be the swear jar for me tonight. So this is going to be my quick swear jar. So if I ever attempt to swear, I will put it in there instead of swearing. But yes, the Dota 2 pass has come out, and my God, is it a massive success?
I saw a graphic on Twitter. Twitter's been my thing lately. I haven't had much time for anything else, apparently. But I saw that this year, as it has been year on year in the same 24 to 48 hour time period, it's beaten it again. So Dota 2 seems to be doing well with its pass year on year, and this year looks like no exception.
Just waiting for it to usurp League as an esport in Australia. But yeah, it's on its way. I would care more for Dota 2 if there was a bigger esports scene here in Australia. It is slowly growing, which is nice to see. But yeah, huge ups to Dota community. Maybe they can break even more records than what they've done in previous years. 40K's on the 40 mils on the horizon now, for what could possibly be in the Battle Pass content, given how much longer of a period they have between now and when the international actually comes. So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yep. Shout out to the Oceanic Esports Dota League. They're doing some great work here in the region. But I'm glad you mentioned League of Legends, Ducky, because our next guest. Now, I don't toss the word hero around very often, But this man, in rugby league, they would call them immortals or future immortals. In wrestling, they would call them Hall of Famers, future Hall of Famers. He is none other than the AD carry for Order. I'm waiting for Swifty to bring him up to the thing. Let's go. He is live now. We have him here, rare7 from the Order team, the AD carry. How you doing, buddy?
Very good. I'm very good today, and yourselves?
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
no,
I'm
Very good.
You looked pretty shabby on Twitter earlier today, mate, but it looks like you've cleared up a bit.
Look, you have some good days and bad days. It happens.
Yeah.
Some days you're on the curb. Some days you're having a good one. But today was definitely not ideal.
swings and roundabouts, my friend. So we're going to jump into some cues, and you're going to give us some A's.
Of course, we can do that.
But first of all, I just want to ask, so how you doing in general? You doing good?
Yeah, not too bad. The off season was obviously recently, and because of all of the COVID stuff, I wasn't able to go home and visit my family. So I was kind of going a little bit insane in my house by myself, just playing League nonstop, which I guess you're not really meant to do on a break from League. But that was unavoidable. So yeah, just been working on the lifestyle stuff, working out, eating well. So all that stuff's been a great help.
Has
so
this
good to hear, man.
insanity given you time to just prepare some really wacky stuff for us for next season? Is that what we're expecting now?
Yeah, well, obviously Spawn had the in-houses, and I first timed Zig's bot there, and that seemed quite successful. So now we've been running around with the Heimerdingers. I've been theory crafting probably a little too much. I think my team doesn't trust me all that much at the moment, but hey, once I'm done
It's back
with
to the end of season 9, bro.
Yeah. Oh, of course. I mean, I view the game that if you're a good enough player, you can play anything anywhere. So
We're gonna find you in Spawn's gonna walk into a room and it's gonna be like all the red string tying together for theory crafting.
yeah,
Off the rails.
For sure. Yeah. There's something. Trust me. In the off season, if you're only playing League, you go a little bit clinically insane, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. So yeah.
Well, my friend, tell us about your feelings on the last OPL split. Let's get the Ronin breakdown of how you felt you did personally and your team did personally last split.
Right. Last split, I would say very disappointing ending, I guess, to call the elephant out in the room. Obviously I spent 3 months in Korea during the off season practicing, which I kind of do every year, and I kind of just don't stop playing League. So I kind of the last time I went to Korea, which was the most recent time, I got quite high elo on the MMR. I was almost like a few games off getting Challenger, which is something I wasn't able to do before. So I was quite confident in my individual ability, like mechanically, to keep up with laners like Averse, Ruler, Deft, Carrier, all those people in Korea, all the the big names. And while obviously it was tricky, I was like, okay, with enough work, I can really challenge these guys. And obviously my support got Challenger, Ayla. So shout out to him. And yeah, I don't know. I guess this split, this year was kind of the year where I was like, okay, like no more fucking around. So I should probably put something in your swear.
Sorry, one second. Wait. There you go, buddy.
Yeah, I was like, nah, like no more of this. I'm getting to work this year, and split one for me was very eye opening in the sense that although I was working hard, I might not have been working smart. So I made a lot of adjustments to my lifestyle stuff, my gameplay stuff, the way I study, the way I learn, and sort of got more into the psychological aspect of the game. And I was like, well, what's actually holding me back from being a world-class player? And I think if I can solve that, you'll see me overseas quite soon.
I like that. I think it's a story in every competitive sport, whether that is track and field, whether it's hitting a new PB in the gym, or esports is making sure you're separating yourself from the I need to grind, because that only gets you so far. And then the next stage of grind is really working out, well, what's the problems? What are the micro things that I improve on that take my game to the next level? So well done for recognizing that as well.
I just did for a second.
If in my experience, it takes a lot of time and a lot of maturity for players to be able to reflect inwardly and see that. So well done, man.
Yeah, thanks, man.
For that.
Yeah, no, it definitely comes with growing up. which is kind of weird to say, but I definitely can feel myself from the 17-year-olds 40 games a day, 3 hours of sleep sort of thing to that more sort of like, okay, well, I actually feel like a bit of a normal human at the moment, just doing, any job, but obviously it's something that I'm very passionate about. So I'm blessed to be able to do this stuff.
And
Yeah,
I
let's-
imagine the lifestyle stuff is really, you can feel the difference getting a good night's sleep and vomiting on the curb.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think I just played 3 of my best solo queue games of the year. I got a few highlights for potential YouTube video coming up, and
yeah.
obviously I'll plug it
Oh.
at the end, whether you guys let me or
Plug
not.
that.
I'll
Plug
plug
that.
it. Alright, my YouTube is rare7. Just rare7 is clean. I don't know how I got it. Someone hasn't jacked it, but yeah, just have a look at some of the videos, and my editor's sick, so yeah, some good content should be coming out.
Yeah,
Love it,
let's
love it.
love it. Let's talk a little bit, like, because you've spoken about grinding from the 17-year-old 40 games a day kind of player.
Yeah.
Obviously now with Order, how do you see your growth as a player over the last 2 years from when you started off on Sin and now moving through your teams and moving up kind of the tier list of Oceanic 80 carries?
I try and reflect every 6 months or year, or when I feel like I'm playing differently, and I try and go, okay, well, would the Ronin 6 months ago be proud of the Ronin now? That's what I try and think about in terms of like when I'm trying to judge, okay, at the end of the split, did I actually put in everything that I could have put in? And sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's no. And I think being able to see that progression for me is very sort of makes it very clear cut that, okay, what I'm doing is working, but that doesn't mean it's working the best. You know what I mean? Like I am getting better, and I am getting better every day or every split or whatever. But does that mean I'm on the trajectory to catch up to someone like Deft? I'm not sure. And you can kind of only use the age thing for so long. You know, you can be like, oh, I'm young, I'm learning, and now it's like, okay, well, I turned 20 this month, so it's like, oh, okay. It's not ideal that I'm still in OS when you look at some of the other players that have moved overseas. It's getting close to that age, and I guess for me that has always been my goal from the start, that I want to take this internationally. And yeah, for me it's just kind of it's been a wake up call, and I think I have improved a ridiculous amount. But does that mean I'm the best ADC in the region? I don't think last split proved that, but I hope this split will.
So is that a case of then, like, you just compare yourself, you don't necessarily compare yourself to who you see within your own region, but you're comparing yourself to the guys that you may be contesting for like NA Academy spots or other overseas competitions that you might be a part of?
Of course, when you're playing soccer, I guess.
Hello.
And so for me,
Oh,
am I back?
Oh,
Hello,
he's
hello?
back.
you're back. You're back.
Well, what I was saying, I don't know where I left off. But
You stopped at
for-
soccer.
Okay,
Stopped
yeah.
at soccer.
For like soccer, right? Like as a kid, you wouldn't look at your favorite soccer player and go, oh, it's this guy that I'm versing on the Sunday League. And although the OPL is obviously not that, it's some of the best players in Australia and New Zealand. It's like, I think keeping my mindset consistent from, okay, Ronaldo's a really good player to, okay, Ruler's a really good player, and I need to model myself based off what these guys do better than me, and it kind of keeps that exciting moment one day, hopefully, and be like, okay, well, once I beat this guy, that's a big enough goal for me to go, okay, even though I didn't win Worlds this time, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing for me, and it definitely helps me stay focused when I know that I can. There's such big like dopamine rewards everywhere, right? It's just like there's so many dopamine rewards to get, and it's just there's so little time. So, yeah.
You've mentioned Ruler quite a lot through this. Is he like the one ADC that you absolutely aspire to like try and follow in his footsteps?
Yeah, I suppose so. I play the game quite aggressively. I'm not too sure if you guys are quite familiar with the way I play the game, but it is very aggressive, and it is very limit testing. It is very, okay, this guy could either look like an absolute freak of nature or a complete idiot. And
Look,
there are
Ronin or mid,
times-
mate. Ronin or mid, mate.
Yeah. I mean, everyone says that, right? Everyone says
Yeah.
that, and it is a meme, right? But it's also true. And while it is one of the things where people are like, oh, okay, this is the mistake he makes, you then look back to when we almost didn't make Gauntlet, split 2 last year, and we're playing against Gravitas, and I'm playing Vayne, and I ult in on mid and kill them all, we get Baron, and we win the game. People don't compare that to he's getting caught on mid-wave Ronin. And sometimes that doesn't come out, and I'm not saying that the fans should have a different opinion, But just know that what makes me good also makes me bad. So when I fine tune it, I will be good.
No, I completely agree, man. Just going to branch on because we're coming up to the more games in the mid-season streamathon.
Yeah.
I voted for you. I personally voted for you. I just want to put that on record.
Thank you,
He's
sir.
he's blazing ahead in the votes as well, 65%.
Let me just write that down so I know who to shout out in the future. I'm kidding.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah. Hey, by the way, your check is coming in the mail. I got the check. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry.
It's under the table. We know about it. We get business done here.
Exactly. So how does it feel to be chosen to be playing to representing some of these, be playing against such like all-stars in the OCE? How does that feel?
Good. Actually, really cool. One of the things that I also set aside as like a sort of a separate goal was, I wanted to build my brand and be a good streamer and be a good content creator. And then, if the option arose where people were like, oh, this guy's actually really cool, I'd want to see him at All Stars. It's like I would like to give myself the opportunity to do that, and I guess from what it looks like so far, I have, which again is really cool. And I think for me, being able to verse Legacy with sort of a mixture of players, it allows me to show that individually I'm up there before the split starts, and people can go, okay, this guy means business. This guy means business to split. And from what people have been saying in solo queue and watching replays, it seems like this split, something has changed, and I'm real hungry.
Nice, man. Like we can really see, and I know you touched on this earlier. We can really see that you are improving each split, and I think people can agree with, like, a lot of people can agree with us when we say like it is visible, and we are seeing you go from strength to strength, and that's such a young age. That's extremely promising, and as you said yourself, you will probably be seeing you be playing overseas very, very shortly.
I hope so. That would be the goal.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
For sure.
So while we're waiting for you to make that transition and keep moving up, obviously we're going to be watching you and your content and your progression through the OPL. What other ADCs should we be watching out for as we head into Split 2?
Should I be watching out for?
And us both. Who are you
right.
afraid of, and who should we be keeping tabs on?
What am I scared of?
Come on.
I think the thing that's interesting about the 80 carry pool right now is that the 80 carries do very different things, and maybe people can't notice that from the outside. But when I look at the top sort of three in my mind, performing wise, it would probably be Raze, Vital, Katsuri. That's what I would say is the top three outside myself. And the thing that's interesting about them is that, in my mind, Katsuri is a very solid, consistent player, but you'll never see him do anything super flashy, crazy, and win you the game. So he's super consistent, super solid, and some teams need that, right? Because you can have a top side that is super aggressive, like your TNs and your Crocs. So that works out really well. And then you look at Raze, and it's like he's not historically been the best laner. When Calvin and King and FBI have been in the region, he hasn't exactly gone like, okay, this guy's lane domination 80 carry. He's been quite a weak laner historically, but a very intelligent player out of lane, which is something I don't think a lot of people give him props for. A lot of the legacy macro is off Quinn or Raze's back. So he's a very intelligent mid-game player. And then you look at Vital, and he's a very young, mechanics-driven sort of Korean 80 carry, and he lanes very well, but then out of lane, he's not the most intelligent player. So I guess what's interesting to me and some of the feedback that I got, because I went around actually asking other pro players what they thought my weaknesses was this off season. I was like, what do you, when you look at me, what makes you go, okay, this guy, or what would I need to change to make you go, I want this guy on my team next year? I just wanted, a different perspective. And the thing that I noticed from a lot of them was that they were saying, you don't really fit into one of those three categories. Some days you lane very well. Some days you play out of lane very well. Some days you communicate super well, make really good calls. And I guess the majority of the feedback that I got kind of pointed towards consistency. And that was, when it comes to the lifestyle stuff, I was like, well, okay, that's an easy fix, right? It makes sense. And I agree with it all myself, because I don't think mechanically that I'm worse than any of the 80 carries. And I don't think that I'm not as smart as any of the 80 carries. But it's about finding the correct balance between playing on that aggressive play style, playing safe, and allowing myself to shine in the moments where I can. So yeah, it's a little interesting, but I think at the moment those are probably the top three in the region. And the only one that I would struggle to take down right now is probably Quinn, just because he's quite intelligent out of the game. That's Raze. So definitely keep an eye on him, and the All Stars or the MSC or whatever it's called. If I end up getting voted into that and I get to play against Quinn, that will be a really good bot lane matchup to watch.
Nice.
Let's shift away a little bit from esports. Let's
Yep.
shift a little bit into how the game itself, League, is trending. Obviously, there was a massive amount of marksman changes pushed through in patch 10.11, which came out today. All those health and scaling changes.
Yep.
How do you think that's going to help the health of your role specifically? Obviously, it's been quite a support-dominated meta for quite some time.
Yep.
Do you think ADCs might have some more legs in the future?
So I was doing a bunch of maths this morning. So one of the things, I ran into some solo queue games and I was streaming before, and I was asking my chat, I was like, hey guys, what the hell does Volleybet do? I have not read anything about this champ, because this morning the only thing that I did when I woke up was a lot of maths on the new ADC changes, the new items, the lane states and champions, and is anything going to be broken? Is it not really a big change? And one of the things I noticed was the Vayne buffs. I think they could be quite good. The 10% bonus damage on your Q, I think it works out to about 8 or 9 bonus damage per Q, and it only costs 40 mana, so it's quite a big laning buff. But then all the other champs, what I found interesting about it was that it wasn't centric towards a champion. A lot of the changes are usually like, okay, we'll change the ADC item, or we'll change the, the amount of gold that things cost. Like pots, for example, they used to be 30 and now they're at 50. One of the things that was interesting to me is that ADC as a whole was buffed. And when you look at the buffs that they changed, you only get a little bit more health level 1. So it doesn't exactly change the dynamic of bot lane outside of whether people are going to buy Doran's Shield or Doran's Blades. And I think half an auto worth of health is probably not the biggest indicator to change the bot lane meta hugely. But the thing that's interesting to me is that bot lane, in comparison to other roles, may be stronger. So we'll be seeing maybe less trading and more matching in terms of like objectives. So early game, I'm not sure if you guys have been following it a lot, but a lot of the teams will flip from bot to top and try and take Herald, and then try and put plates on their bot laner, turret plates. And one of the things that's interesting about that is that a lot of the time, the top lane champion that ends up matching the duo, if the map is split, like the bot lanes are on both sides of the map, they can do a very good job at killing them, right? And so to me, it's like, well, maybe we'll be seeing bot lanes match each other more, and there'll be a lot more sort of brawling around neutral objectives like dragons and heralds. So I thought that was interesting. And then obviously the Calista buff with the W passive, not so big for solo lane, but bot lane, that one seems like the most, okay, this could be quite crazy. Playing with a range support, playing for lane domination, Calista's probably the best laning AD carry in the game right now. So yeah, should be interesting.
Do you reckon we might see the picks like Lucian, Vayne, and Tristana be picked up more outside of bot lane? Like, we've already been seeing a little bit of Vayne solo lane, a lot in other regions as well. Do you reckon that might be starting to see some Lucian and Tristana again?
So I actually really like the changes to the... They had a separate sort of part in the patch where they said, okay, well, this is for AD carries that can be played in a solo lane. So we're going to change them a little differently, because we don't want Lucian to be even more giga broken than he is in solo lanes. And so one of the interesting things I saw was that they revolved a lot more of the balance around crit. So with the Vayne bonus crit damage, a lot of the time when you're playing Vayne in solo lane, you're versing a champion that will build HP. So if you're versing a mage, or you're versing a tank, or like your Maokai, anything, Vayne does quite well, right? It can shred him. The problem with that is that you can't build crit. Because if you're building crit versus someone that builds HP, it takes a long time to actually start doing damage to them with W max on Vayne. So you have to go towards the Bork build if you want to win lane in solo lanes. Whereas bot lane, you could play a little slower and go for a crit orientated build, and then have a bigger spike mid game because of the crit buffs. So they tried to, and the same with Lucian with the gunslinger, light slinger on the passive. The second auto now gives you 100% crit damage instead of 75, I believe. Off the top of my head.
I think it was 80 or something. It was reduced.
Yeah. And to me, that doesn't scream solo lane buffs. That screams bot lane buffs. So will you be seeing people whip out pocket picks on bot lane? Like, I think yes. I think that always has sort of been the case, but I think this will incentivize, good Tristana players, good Vayne players, and good Calista players to go, okay, I'm going to win lane and I'm going to win the game off this. So yeah.
Well, I feel like that if there's any AD carry players, they've just absorbed a ton of knowledge just then. Because I certainly did, and I play support, and I don't know if I'm going to use that. But I have to say,
I just
I have
got
to
a whole
go
heap of knowledge,
Oh, yeah.
but I know that my mechanics are nowhere near good enough to win a lane to apply
Yeah.
that mid-game crit buff anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think we're in a call with 3 support players here as well. Aren't you a support player,
Yeah.
Judgy?
Oh, no, mate. I am top Ergot main, all right?
All
Oh
right,
God!
all
All right, we need to get him
Alright.
out of the call. We need to get him out of the call.
67%
fast. What a
win
grub!
rate,
What a
boys.
That's
grub!
good. I'm gonna put-
He's can of Kung Fu
Put
and
more
reincarnate.
coins. I'm putting more coins in the jar, Judge. Look what you're doing to me. You're making me break. So we've got some people in the chat, some very notable names. Tally, first of all, get out of here. You're taking secrets. Get out of here.
Yeah,
You
true,
won your
actually.
thing. Get out of here, Tally.
Tally's
He
here,
told
been
me
like,
everything. Yeah, he
Ronan,
told me
give me
everything I
the map.
know. So yeah, obviously I played with him
Yeah.
last year, so he's
Yeah.
given me some 5-head understanding. But yeah,
Sure. Shout out
Can't
to
share the
Tally out
strats
there.
now, bro. Legends
Yeah.
is blocked.
no,
You
well
can't.
the way that I view it is that if you leak and you teach people stuff, yeah, you're confident in yourself to learn faster than them, and I think that allows you to be
That's
very
an
confident
interesting
in yourself.
mentality.
Yeah, but there you go. You got some knowledge there. Dropping knowledge and dropping ADC knowledge. But first, now I'd like to jump over to what I like to call the fun segment.
Okay,
Now, the fun segment I invented myself. No one else invented it. Is mine.
sounds
but-
very fun.
It is. You get it.
It's very original as well. Like
Yeah.
Original
No
and
one-
fun. Now that's a
No
combo.
one got it. No one got it in the pitch meeting. Anyway, so the fun segment. We're going to ask you 2 questions.
Okay.
Please be as real. Please be as visceral as
Yeah.
you can be.
I'm gonna have
because we
to
love-
Google that.
cash
one.
in the swear jar. Cash in the swear
Yeah.
jar.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
going to be catching this word up.
Continue.
So
Yep.
let's just say in a fantasy world that Riot Games, they jump into your DMs, they slide on over and they say, hey, Ronan, we want your advice. We want to remove a champion from the game.
Okay.
You have executive power to do so. We're just going to
Executive
give
power.
you... Yeah, you are going to do it. Whatever you say, it happens. It is done.
Yep.
Which
Okay.
champion do you remove from the game and
Evelyn.
why?
Evelyn.
Evelyn. That
Yeah.
was so quick. That was so quick. Can you explain to me why?
So I think the game should be. So while it should be balanced around competitive, you also have to think about solo queue. And
Yeah.
when I think about high elo or solo queue, I think about people flinging poo at each other. It's not exactly the highest
That's a good...
of quality games. So when I think about champions that can run invis and farm fast, I think the game is very difficult to play. So when I'm playing against Evelyn and I have a support, there's actually a guy, a Nautilus one trick. I won't name his name because I actually forgot it. But he doesn't buy pink wards. He's a master support player that just does not buy pink wards. He goes like a tanky Nautilus build, never buys pinks. Anyway, he's a complete he's from Area 51 for sure. He's a complete freak. But yeah, like I find it very difficult to play the game if I'm not duo bot when things like that, sort of occur, I suppose. And then you think about one of the champs in the game, the Snowball. Obviously, when you think about how 80 carries work versus Evelyn, you have to think about how her ult works, right? And it does more damage based on how low they are. It's an execute. So let's say you were to buy more, right? More of Malmortius, the MR 80 carry item, I guess, the staple item. Unfortunately, if you get to the point where it's going to proc at your 30% health, you're dead anyway. So you have to go GA, which means you have no MR, which means she doesn't even have to ult you to kill you. The champ is fucking broken! Get rid of it. Anyway, that's
You're gonna make me
when
broke,
you
man.
started attacking 0-1 tricks and solo queue who don't buy pink wards, I was really scared you were going to say my solo, like my summoner name. But thankfully you didn't.
Well,
You
you
didn't.
deserve to be reported, but I won't be the one.
I buy pink wards. I buy pink
Okay.
wards. I swear.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say if you could put him on blast. If you knew him, I was gonna say put him on blast.
Oh, his name's Warglaves.
Oh,
Someone in chat,
we
someone in
figured
chat.
it. There you go.
Anyway.
We got it.
Anyway, I just take the -3 points and go have a coffee instead of playing with that guy. Anyway, that's all there is to
what
it.
are you doing, buddy? Buy a
Mm.
pink ward. So
Yeah.
we've got
Yeah.
Evelyn out of the way.
Okay, perfect.
Evelyn's done. She's out, and then all of a sudden everything's good in the world. Actually, first of all, I must say, did you play when she was before the rework? So back when she had permanent, I think it was permanent or timed invisibility, and she would stun outside of.
The permanent invis is
Yes,
that's a beta season 1
Yeah,
relic of League of Legends.
I think someone might have, had a few too many whiskeys in the balance area. Yeah, no, I'd probably have quit the game by now if that champ had still been the same thing. So
That's true. That's true.
we're still here.
Now,
We're still grinding.
We're still here.
exactly,
Yeah.
man. We're still grinding. Now, Ronan, Brian said you have done a great job. That
Oh, I
change
know.
was-
Don't you worry. It was perfect. Trust
I
me.
love the fucking attitude on this guy. Oh, sorry.
Anyway,
I think wait, you actually
No,
swore. So how many do you have to
Steve,
put in? Wait, hold on. If he was putting them in for not swearing, how many does he have to put in for swearing?
I put
At
in
least
enough.
5.
Right? I put in
50.
enough.
He's
Okay. Well,
putting in a
I
pineapple.
hope that jar's getting sent to my PO box because you don't need that money.
Yeah, I'll send all the money you gave me for shouting you out. So,
We're even then, I guess.
so they said you did such a great job, but they still didn't see your DMs once more, and they've asked, "Hey, do you have any ideas?" No doubt you're a pro player. You've the theory craft a champion or two.
Yep.
Do you have a champion that you would like added to the game? We want a mechanic. We want something. If it hits 4 times and does something, that's new. So, what do you think that should be added to the game?
Well, first of all, have they paid me for this Evelyn change? If they liked it so much, I'm not working for them unless they're gonna pay me.
They literally sent you a check with the letter X on the amount.
Oh yeah.
And
Okay.
and just said, and with a person and just a picture of Tryndamere shrugging, going.
Okay.
You-
I don't know what that means, but sure.
You ever seen
It
that
means-
movie Blank Check with the kid who gets that blank check and has a mansion? And yeah, that's
Yeah,
you.
that-
You're that kid.
When you-
Mansion with water slide.
I've played too much
Yeah.
League to watch any movies. Anyway,
Yeah.
the issue. Okay, so I don't exactly have a champion or interaction that I want added to the game, but there's something outside of Summoner's Rift that I would like to be added to the game.
What is it? Tell me.
I would like ranked ARAM, an MMR system for ARAM to come in because I would be mechanically insane on an ARAM map, and I know that my teammates, obviously Ayla, and Swiper, we love a good ARAM here and there, and yeah, I guess like when I queue up at late night and I'm like, okay, I want to play an ARAM game, I would potentially like to verse someone other than a 5-stack iron team. Because while it is fun here and there, I would like to be challenged maybe somewhat more mentally, and I think it would bring ARAMs back because a lot of people like ARAM, and they play it religiously, but there kind of is no incentive to play. You don't get any super cool border or anything. So for like an addition to League, I would say that. And in terms of adding a new champion or something to the game, like when it comes to theory crafting, like I would love some like just Elon Musk thing. Like we just ask Elon Musk and then like we'll see what he says. Like, can we make it to Mars?
Yeah, he's gonna create some sort of AI that's gonna come in and replace all the fucking.
Actually, I would make a new character. What's Elon Musk's kid's name on like?
It's
Kyle.
Ash.
It's like it's apparently pronounced Kyle.
Oh, it's Kyle,
no,
but wait, I put
yeah.
it in the chat.
It's
there
the
you go.
Ash symbol A12 or something.
That's what the character would be called, but I don't know what it would do yet. So I might have to get back to you on that.
How would people shorten? How would people shorten that? Like you're trying to get the flash timer down. You don't want to type in like SUPF. You're going like A12F. You're going AEF.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could do that, or you could 5-header and just do no name. And if there's only one no name and 4 names, by probable deduction, we could come to conclusion that is the flash timer. But I think like it would probably have like 9 flashes, like it would sniff Mars dust or something and just one-shot everyone, like kind of like Evelyn.
Sniff Mars dust. Nice.
Yeah, so
I
I don't exactly know what it would do, but as long as it's not as broken as Evelyn, it can be in the game.
Let's just hold on for a second because I got a little tingle. So it's not against TOS this tingle.
I was gonna say Monka TOS.
Yeah, I was about to mute him and get out of here
it's
fast.
okay. I hear Swifty sweating in my ears right now. So let's theorycraft this for a bit. So if it's an Elon Musk themed champion, I have a feeling its Q can be like a puff of smoke, right?
Sure.
Because you know how he was on the Rogan podcast and he bump puffed a joint. That could be like its first Q. It disappears, kind of like a Carly Q. It sort of just goes, is this legal? And then disappears. It disappears and loses some gold. It disappears and loses a bit of gold.
I am glad that I'm creating the character and not you. I will tell you that much. But it's an idea that I could pitch to the board. Maybe some of the boys could get behind it. But
look,
but that's the kind of character knowledge that Riot puts in.
True. That is true, actually. I was thinking
Silver-
like one of the abilities could be like a bike or like a Tesla or something. You could just fucking zoom around, you know. Sorry.
Did you see the guy on Reddit the other day praising Certainly T?
No, I don't actually use Reddit. I apologize.
Oh, that's fine. Do you know who
You're missing
Certainly
out.
T is at least?
No, I do not.
He's the designer behind all the worst champions in League, like the Akali rework.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm taking this guy's job. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, you can happily take his job, please.
Perfect. No problems.
I would like to say really quick I'm just going to wrap you up there, but first I just want to say thank you so much, Ronan, for coming on. You've been an absolute treat, gem, legend, all the above and in between.
Perfect.
Yep. We're gonna go for a really quick short break after this. But first, do you want to plug anything? Do you want to
Absolutely.
shout out?
I'm rare7. Wait, what's my Twitter? Rare7 with 7 sevens. YouTube
it's on-
rare7. I don't know. Is everything here?
YouTube link in the chat. YouTube link in the chat, man.
Okay, perfect.
There you go.
Yeah, outside of that, I got TikTok, but I only have one video. Like, no Patreon stuff, but maybe in the future, we'll see. You know. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Where's the OnlyFans, bro?
Yeah.
Yeah,
look,
I'm working on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna go on a quick break, everyone. Stick around, please, because we've got some really controversial shit coming up. Oh shit.
see you later, guys.
That's 2, Nico. That's 2.
So-
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Snowball Esports Show. I am Nico. Joined with me is Ducky and Judge. We just had rare7 on. What an absolute gem.
What a character.
Great.
Great
Just
mob
a-
of hair, but he's also got a great mob of hair. Can we talk about that for a minute?
we didn't actually talk about his hair. So welcome to the rest of the show where we talk about his hair. So if you
Yeah.
were expecting
This
something
is-
else, then I'm sorry.
If he's still in Twitch
Ronan's
chat, can he
hair.
link his routine? It's slick.
I'm actually like, I was thinking then, I'm like, you know what? Like, his YouTube puts out some good content. He's a pretty funny guy. I'm looking
Yep.
forward to, want to get him some unpacking videos so maybe I can learn how to win as ADC with that 5-head knowledge. I'm like, you know what else? Hair fashion. We need Rare8 YouTube channel. That is just hair. Like,
it.
perfect. He's a YouTuber now.
Maybelline is missing out on a sponsorship dream right now. But
He's everything you could ask for. He's the
Exactly.
full package.
And you know what? He was born with it.
Hey, Judge, that's a great slogan. He should put that down somewhere. Did you just make that
Born.
up?
I
You
did.
just-
I did.
He's
You
so
made that up
creative.
myself.
I
I'm
can't believe
such
you
a
just made that
creative
up.
mind.
Look, he talked about marketing's his passion. It's in his name, brand. Bam, done.
Bomb. You're
Now-
welcome.
Gentlemen, quickly, I'm going to bring it back down to earth real quick. There's two things I love in life right now. That is barbecue shapes and FPS shooters. I have no barbecue shapes with me, but I have some FPS shooters with me, and that is what we're going to talk about tonight for the rest of the night. FPS, it seems like it's a hot topic as of late. With you got Valorant, you got Call of Duty, even I was about to say Animal Crossing, but that doesn't count. But
Wait, what do you mean Tom Nook has some dual Berettas? What do you mean? Give me your rent.
Look,
Pay
it's
off.
not out.
Tom Nook about to lean around this corner and just
Exactly.
He's
Look,
QE
it's not out.
spamming.
Nintendo, hit us up. Slide in our DMs and we'll sort you out. But first, I want to talk about. It looks like there's a bit too much. We're sort of sitting on Noah's Ark, and there's a big flood of FPS coming in. Let's chat about what's going on. Let's chat about the rain. Let's chat about the water. The water and rain represent all the FPS titles that are coming out as of late. Do you think there's too many? Do you think there's too much? I don't know. Boys, tell me.
Let's start this off with a little overview of what kind of FPS titles we have. So if you go back in the chamber about 5 years, we had one. It was named Counter-Strike Global Offensive. We had Call of Duty, but it wasn't really an esport, at least in Oceania.
well, and even then, like 5 years ago, COD Esports in Oceania, you had Cybergamer ladders that I used to play in, and that was for pro mod and things like that. But not even then, it was older than 5 years ago because 6 to 7 years ago, Activision made the choice to support console-based esports because console was their highest selling platform. So esports got funneled to that with MLG and Activision, and PC got left to die, and it just segmented the market. People forgot about it unless they were diehard COD esports fans. So like it existed in its own little realm. And you're right, we only had CS.
Yeah, but since then, Overwatch was released in 2016, and it's been a flood of FPS titles since then. When you look back over the last 5 years, we've had Overwatch come out, we've had Rainbow Six Siege come out, we've had Fortnite come out, we've had PUBG be turned from a mod into a proper game. We've had Apex Legends surprise launch last year. It's funny to think that was like 14 months ago. That game just popped out of nowhere.
Really? Has it only been that long?
Yeah.
Oh damn,
It
that
was
game
February
feels like it's
last
been
year.
around for an eon, man. It just shows how old I'm getting.
Boomer.
All right.
I've seen you play FPS shooters, man. You've got that title down, Pat.
All right,
Thank you.
Zoomer historian, calm down.
Zoomer boys.
Let me just adjust my glasses for a second here. No, I
And
completely agree.
then on top of all those titles that I just listed, we've got Valorant. So we've gone from just one FPS title contesting in the esports market to around 7 or 8.
Mm.
And things are starting to get a little bit congested at the top, I think. Obviously, with Valorant coming in, it's not necessarily a direct competitor to something like Fortnite or Apex, but it is. People have been beating around the bush about it. It is a competitor to CS:GO. There is no doubt about it that Valorant Esports is a direct competitor to CS:GO Esports in the same way that League is a direct competitor to Dota 2.
Right.
Like those,
yeah.
they're very similar games. And what we're seeing now with Valorant is an exodus of players from other titles in Australian esports, whether it be Overwatch, CS:GO, Fortnite, Apex, whatever. We're seeing the exodus of players towards Valorant as a new title. But it's kind of interesting to see how, as the tide shifts from one game to another, scenes across the board are slowly dwindling. It's especially evident in Overwatch, at least from my perspective. And I don't think the region's big enough to support 8 FPS esports franchises, but you guys may beg to differ.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think that it's going to even out pretty well. And we'll see migration of certain categories of player in other titles move across into Valorant, which we've already started seeing. We're seeing people that were Fortnite pros moving across into Valorant because like it's the next best thing. I'm not chasing Fortnite anymore. Sick of what Epic's doing with it. I'm going Valorant. Let's go Riot. We're seeing CS players get around it, not necessarily current pros because CS is still alive and thriving, but we're looking at CS pros. I saw a funny tweet. Can't remember who tweeted it. But CS pros that haven't done anything in the CS scene for 3 years are now announcing they're active again because Valorant's coming out, and that's a trend we will see. We will see people come back into the space as they look to see if Valorant is their game, their time to come back up through. In a smaller region like ours, we may feel the hit a little more within the FPS space. I think it will do what it has often done as soon as a new title comes out that's relatively similar to something that others are playing, like Rainbow Six, like CS, is we'll see everyone jump on the bandwagon for a while, except those who are dedicated to their core title. Everyone will jump on the bandwagon. They'll play it. We'll see the scene established at a grassroots level, see who is consistently up the top in what we could call the esports scene of that game compared to the ranked, the competitive scene, very different to esports. And then we'll see everyone go back to their core titles outside of that top esports scene. You'll still have your casual players. They don't count. They flip between games anyway. But your competitive will do what they always do. There's a new title. They give it a crack. They see if they're going to make that transition into esports in this one. And if they don't, they'll go back to where they're comfortable. But I don't think with... I mean, you look at the games that we have that I could really lump into this. CS, Overwatch, PUBG, Valorant. Really? Fortnite's got a big enough player base that it doesn't matter if people move around from there. Like, really? They won't be affected. But from those four, and maybe Siege in there as well, really, Overwatch and PUBG doesn't matter. Like, it really, honestly, is my hot take for the night. Players leaving those two scenes does not matter. Those scenes have been struggling for 12 months anyway. So... like, I'm seeing CS will have a little bit of a movement, but again, it'll just be retired boys coming back and a few of the current pros having fun with it. But I think it'll be fine, and I think we've got space.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think what's going to happen... Yeah. I think it's interesting because it's... you've got CSGO, right? So CSGO and Valorant, I feel I think it's more akin to Overwatch than it is to CSGO. Yes, it is more of a more tactical shooter, but the spells completely changed it up a bit. I know they're basically Molotovs and smoke screens, but it's just like, I don't know. I feel like there is a place for every FPS now, and the more niche we get, the more little micro communities that are going to be building out of all these things. And you're going to see a lot of people start to disassemble the top FPS titles, and they're all going to fall down into these little micro communities. And you're going to see like all these interesting takes on everything. I think it's going to be great for the community. And I see that the more FPS games, the better, because the more we try something new, the more we try something different, we're going to get a game that, might hit my interests, might hit Ducky's interests. If there's an anime girl's FPS shooter, then he's going to have a fucking ball with that one.
Yeah, right.
But you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's all about hitting those niches. Like that's what keeps me interested. If there's like a Warhammer focused game, then hell yeah, baby, I'm hopping on that stuff.
I guess we like. I think the biggest point of the argument for me is at least like we went from a period of time where the only FPSs that you could really play were like if you want to be esports centric, there was like one or two, and now it's just exploded. Like there have always been FPS titles that have held my heart more than others. Like I will happily profess to you about Dirty Bomb. I will talk about that game for hours on end. I love Dirty Bomb. I still play on the community servers, even though Splash Damage doesn't support it, and there's one community server in Australia that, like, there's 4 people on at any one time. I will still play that game. But
that was a bloody good game, too.
It's such a good game.
Hard, but it was such a good game.
It was it was released at the wrong time. Like, that game was a symptom of the fact that all these FPS games started flooding the market. Dirty Bomb was released when Overwatch and Paladins were trying to power for 1 and 2, and so it then got flung out to 3. And then you've also got games like Battlefield and COD who were releasing new releases at that time as well. And so at the end of it, Splash Damage and Nexon got the short end of the stick and got no player base. And it sucked. Like, as a player who still wants to run around playing proxy 24/7, I miss playing Dirty Bomb all the time. And
Yeah.
I get what you guys are saying about the niches and stuff, but having come off Dirty Bomb and having been relatively heartbroken to see that game go the way it was, and having known that there are players who are now professionals in other games who started their careers off in Dirty Bomb. One of them is Overwatch, and he didn't necessarily start in Dirty Bomb, but it was one of his big breaks was Tung, who's now Terry, the player for Ground Zero Overwatch. He was a great friend of mine in high school. And like all these guys, all my friends, we jumped from Dirty Bomb and then they jumped onto Overwatch. But I wish Dirty Bomb just stayed around, and that's what I fear when we talk about Valorant coming in. I don't want. Is it sad to say that I don't necessarily want change? Because I want titles to shine in their own respects, and I feel like with the oversaturation of the market, some titles will just fall by the wayside without people giving them a fair chance. And that's the one thing that I'm worried about the most. Whether that's from a casual perspective or an esports perspective, it's not necessarily yet to be seen. But if it's from an esports perspective, I feel like we could really miss out on what could be an amazing scene.
I think that the one saving grace that we have now, and while take a pinch of salt here, I think it certainly impacts casual communities of FPS titles more than it does esports communities on a wider scale, is crossplay. When Dirty Bomb was released, there was not a crossplay for consoles and PC playing together, sharing a population. It's the reason why Warzone and COD, Modern Warfare Remaster Multiplayer, is still thriving. This is hands down the single longest I've ever been able to play a COD title on PC since Black Ops 2. And it's because of crossplay. There is actually a player base that I can play with now. And I think that's a saving grace we have across many titles. While we don't have that universally across FPS titles, I think it's a saving grace for what we have moving forward, is that crossplay is a thing that is easily accessible now for developers. Epic's done a lot of great work with Unreal Engine, and giving access to developers that are working with them. So in an oversaturated market, those that are producing more indie titles right now, alongside the FPS greats of Valorant and ongoing things like CS and R6, I think that they will have their own niche communities and survive for a while because they'll have a niche community across platforms. But I feel you, man.
Yeah.
I love Dirty Bomb as well, and I don't think our established titles are going to suffer. I would be very well surprised if CSGO and Rainbow Six suffered because of Valorant's release. I think they'll thrive and they'll continue to do their thing because they're different enough that they'll continue. Overwatch and PUBG, that's to be seen. Again, very different games, but I think we'll be okay. Just treading on the side of caution.
I think another saving grace for Valorant as well, just before we wrap this all up, I think another saving grace for Valorant is the fact that it's developed by Riot. Like, League of Legends is the only precedent that we necessarily have for Riot, because Legends of Runeterra is too small to the gauge yet. It's too young. It's too new. But based on what Riot has built with League of Legends over the last decade, it's very easy to have faith that not only will they build an esports, not only will they build a game that can stand up and not necessarily compete, but also play alongside the likes of Dota, and up to maybe 2 years ago, you could say Heroes of the Storm. But its esports scene will be healthy and thriving. So if you are, and that's the one gripe that I think a lot of players have had when they've jumped over to Valorant, is because they've been disillusioned with previous developers who have maybe not have treated the pro scene with the respect or dignity that it deserved. And so they're coming into Valorant with the perspective that Riot's probably going to change things and make it right. And look, I'm probably going to give Riot the benefit of the doubt that Riot globally as a whole has really handled their esports product really well. And I just hope that it can maintain a longevity, not necessarily for 5 years like we're talking about with esports titles now, but decades.
Yep.
Absolutely. I want to touch on something Isaac said to finish off as well. Isaac in the chat said, surely helps that games are heavily supported these days too, right? Players can continuously return for new content, seasons, balance updates, etc. And absolutely, it's very different to the days of COD where you wouldn't get updates. Like, it would just be
you got the disc and that was
maybe,
it.
Yeah, maybe a patch if you played on PC, if you were lucky, to fix things that were horribly buggy that they really shouldn't have released, and that was it. Content is a big thing, and developers support that. And Valorant's going to be no different. It's Riot freaking Games, who are some kings of content when it comes to keeping a casual player base playing in the face of toxicity and horrible casual player base. But, you know, they will be coming back. It will have a healthy player base, and it's Riot. It will have a healthy esports ecosystem. Just watch out for the sidelines. Like I said, I don't think that our staple FPS titles are going to have trouble because those devs are doing exactly the same things. But watch the sidelines, watch for those satellite titles that are trying to make their space, but just can't get a foothold right now.
Completely agree, boys. I think we've sort of got the workings of a good FPS chat here. Unfortunately, we can't talk about it all night. Otherwise, we could have. Seriously, there are some like really big heaters that we could have chatted on.
Nitty-gritty into this.
Yeah,
We'll love it.
Yeah, the cross-platform was interesting. I feel like the grassroots stuff was also interesting, and I mean, it just helps that the developers backing it. It just gives it that level of support that people can like. Look at WoW, for example. I know it's not FPS, but damn, that thing is going strong after like. Well, strong's I use that as a loose term, but it is going. But
it is,
and it's been like well over 10 years, and that's insane. Dota is just hit its 10th year here, and it's just going from strength to strength. That's because they keep changing the dynamic of it all. I mean, it sucks for a pro player. I can't imagine what that's like, but for a casual player, it's bloody fantastic. It's, you know what? It's fucking fantastic, I think. like I said, we can't talk about it all night, but we're going to jump on to our next segment, which is a quick wrap of this weekend's esport content that you can consume, that you, the consumer, the person, the fan, the audience member, the person can consume. And Judge, take it away. Let me know.
Newsreader Judge, let's go. Thick and fast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the end of the show where I get to run you through what's on this weekend in esports. Tonight in Counter-Strike, you've got a little bit of time before we get into it. At 10 p.m. Eastern, you're going to get the DreamHack Masters Spring Europe. It's Vitality versus Ninjas in Pajamas. Get onto that. CSGO as well at midnight tonight. If you have an elite one, it's the Hellcase Cup 8. I'd recommend watching the Excellency versus Sprout matchup. Could be an albiter and a bit of fun. And if you're that way inclined, like our host Nico, there's Dota at midnight as well for ESL 1 Birmingham Online. For the EU CIS region, it's Nigma versus Team Unique. Tomorrow, if you want to wake up early or stay up all night, I suppose, it's CSGO, 1:30 a.m., the DreamHack Masters Spring Europe. Na'Vi against Ants in Group D. For Dota, once again, 3 a.m. this time, it's ESL 1 Birmingham. It'll be a cracker as we've got OG versus Hellraisers in Group B. And it's worth knowing that Topson is playing, so get along to that one. CSGO again, 5:10 a.m., not as early. It's the DreamHack Masters Spring NA. 100 Thieves against Cloud9 in Group B. Watch that one if you're a Counter-Strike fan.
Yeah, the boys.
A little bit different. 9 a.m. tomorrow. It's the NBA 2K League. It's week 4, day number 3. Get along to it. On Saturday, skipping forward, my recommendations, it's more CSGO, 1:30 a.m., the DreamHack Masters Spring Europe again, Na'Vi versus Ninjas in Pajamas. And then at 5:10 a.m., you'll catch EG versus 100 Thieves over in DreamHack Masters Spring for NA. NBA 2K will have its second day, or fourth day, second in a row for week 4 at 9 a.m. on Saturday. And we've also got a little bit of Apex Legends in there, 11 p.m. for those living east in Australia. It's the ALGS Online number 6. On to Sunday, 2 more recommendations. It's CSGO at 5:10 a.m. for the DreamHack Masters Spring NA, Gen G against Cloud9, and you'll cop here locally at 7:10 p.m. in Counter-Strike, ESEA Premier Season 34, Chiefs Esports Club against Bants. A small shout-out as well. Thursday, we're going to have at 9 p.m. the Contenders Australia Season 1 Grand Final. I will be reminding you at the end of next week's show to head straight over and catch that as well. And that wraps up what's on in esports this weekend.
Judgy, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that. So please go check it out. Those all that esports goodness, just like Gwen Stefani. What you waiting for?
Oh, banger!
Got to put that into.
That was the pre-show vibes.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, thank you so much for tuning in. This show wouldn't be anything without you, the person who's watching. So thank you so much for tuning in. It also wouldn't be anything without my co-hosts down here.
Where are we? You're above me now. I can do that.
Ducky and Judge, thank you so much for coming on board. This show is such a treat to do. And everyone, and we get more chatter in the chat. Let's get chatter in the chat. I want to read your stuff. I want to hear your thoughts.
Just one last thing before we head off and adios into the wonderful world or whatever the hell we're doing tonight. Shout out to Swifty. He's been doing a massive graphics overhaul for the Snowball Show. So going on from next
True.
week, it will look clean as hell. You might have seen the little transition that we had between the interview that we had with rare7. That was all done by Swifty. And for next week, it'll be a completely new look. And we can't wait to show it off to you guys.
Yeah. It's looking so good. We're going to slap a 2 at the end of it. It's going to be the Snowball Esports Show 2. That's how
Electric
good it's going to
Boogaloo.
be. Yep. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for everyone in the chat chatting away. Thank you for all the people behind the scenes as well. We'll see you next. Oh, make sure you check out all the articles and all the good stuff that we chatted about on the snowballesports.com. Check out us on Twitter. Please check it out. Give it a like. Give it a dislike. I don't know. You might not like what we're chatting about, but we love to hear your thoughts and we love to see people talking about esports. That's what we love. That's what we love. Judgy, Ducky, thank you, boys. Take it away, Swifty.
Good night.
It's impossible for me not to fall in love with you, baby.